What's up, guys? My name is Roman. Tonight we're going to be reacting to a song about addiction. Now, I'm a hip hop head, a music enthusiast. I would consider myself a connoisseur of fine music. And over the years, people always ask me for my opinions or my advice on songs or lyrics. They say, Rome, what should I listen to when I'm feeling whatever, anxious, sad, lonely, depressed, struggling with mental health, struggling with addiction, and there's so many great songs out there that talk about drug addiction, that talk about mental health. That there's so many routes that you can go. Music is beautiful. It speaks to the soul, and it's highly subjective. So the song that personally resonates most with me might not be the one that resonates with you, but it's the answer I've been giving for the last 15 years. And that is Otherside by Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, specifically the remix featuring Fences. When that song came out, I remember hearing it for the first time and just being like, oh, wow, you know, in talking about this struggle with addiction, in talking about how somebody can kind of fall into the addiction cycle by accident almost or unknowingly, and then like the ramifications and the consequences to substance use, like it just hits home. Now I know we're gonna dive into it right now. I know there's a lot of hate out there for Macklemore. They say he's corny. They say he's not a good rapper. Look, I don't want to hear any of that. Dude won a Grammy, so like I've never won a Grammy. I don't personally know anyone who's ever won a Grammy. So like, gotta give the dude his flowers. And I think that when talking about substance abuse in particular, Macklemore is a man who has struggled with that. He's been very open about his journey and his story. He's talked about recovery. He's been an advocate for recovery. And I think that this song perfectly encompasses what that struggle looks like. So let's dive into it. I'll let you know my thoughts, and we'll go from there. So here it is. Other Side remix, Macklemore, Ryan Lewis.
Oh girl, this boat is sinking. There's no sea left for me. And
Just that
how
piano.
the sky gets heavy when you are underneath it. Oh, I want to sail away from here. And God, He came down, 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 and said, down, 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 nothing, down, 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 down.
So just like right off the bat, I mean, coming in with the piano, just that does something, right? It's an emotional puller, right? So it pulls on the emotion strings. Yeah. And then Fences, who's the artist who's singing this part, just his voice is able it just slices through right away, and it evokes feeling, whatever the feeling is that comes to you, it evokes that feeling. Now the video itself is great. I haven't seen this video in a long time, so we'll be kind of like live reacting to this. What I notice now though is that there's a lot of water in the video, and water in videos and music videos in particular can be used in so many different ways. One of the things people use water as like this sense of drowning, like this dread or this fear of drowning. Now he's rowing a boat out onto this vast lake. Now they're from the Pacific Northwest, I think Seattle area. So all of this was probably filmed up there. So I imagine this is either like the bay or some lake up in that area. But just a single person in a little rowboat out in this vast water. Yeah, it's like isolation and just the visual aspect to this along with the lyrics. something to pay attention to.
You rolled up, asked him what he was sipping on. Said lean. You wanna hit it, dog? That's the same stuff Wheezy sipping, huh? And tons of other rappers that be spitting hard. Yep, he had 5 a bone. Then when I passed him that styrofoam, the Easter pink heard it rhyme before I finally got to see what all the hype was on. And then he took a sip, sitting in the Lincoln, thinking he was pippin' as he listened to.
So just backtrack a little bit. He's talking about sipping on lean. Lean is codeine with promethazine. It was really popular maybe like 15 years ago. I mean, it's still popular, but back then, I mean, Lil Wayne, he mentions Lil Wayne in this. That's the same stuff Wheezy sipping, huh? Lil Wayne was always sipping lean. You see him with the 2 styrofoam cups. A bunch of people, the whole rap scene in Houston was sipping lean. You had UGK talking about lean. Like lean was a big drug that was being abused, especially in hip hop, and it unfortunately led to a lot of overdose deaths. I mean, codeine and promethazine. Codeine is an opiate, right? So it's like just a couple steps above heroin. So, you know, he's talking about sitting in this car, sipping on some lean like Wheezy was. It was like, yeah, that was like a lot of people's introduction to opiates, was kind of this hip hop culture surrounding, sipping on some lean on the styrofoam cup. Like it was a cool thing to do. It was like smoking a cigarette, you know, as a teenager. It was like, oh, that was like the cool thing to do. And so a lot of people became addicted to opiates that started off on this thing that was seemingly harmless, right? Like nobody really knew what it was in. And the next thing you know, you're physically dependent. And being an opiate, like that physical dependency can hit like that, you know. Next thing you know, you're getting dope sick. You need it in the morning just to get out of bed, you know. And so I think that's kind of what he's talking about here.
To the system. Little did he know that it was just as addictive as bass. Not the kind of hit from the kick drum. Hot box, let the bass bump. Take it to the face, go. Months later, the use went up. And every blunt was accompanied by the pink stuff. But goddamn.
So he just talked about it, you know, it's just addictive as bass being heroin. Yeah, it is. And then he talks about how a couple months later his use is going up, right? What we know about opiates and a lot of drugs is over time your dependency will increase. So the amount that you need to ingest or consume to feel that high will increase over time. So like you got to keep doing more and more and more. And like I said, like eventually you'll get dope sick and you'll need that just to feel normal. And you hear a lot of people in recovery talking about like at the end, the last days of our using, it wasn't to get high anymore. It was just to feel normal, you know, and that's powerful.
Love that feeling, purple rain coated in the throat, just so healing. Medicine alleviate the sickness, liquid to fix them, it comes with the cost. Wake up, cold sweat, scratching, itching, trying to escape the skin that barely fit him. Gone, get another bottle just to get a couple swallows, headed towards the bottom, couldn't get off it. Didn't even think he had a problem, though we couldn't sleep without getting nauseous. Room spinning, thinking he might have sipped just a little bit too much of that cough syrup.
Yeah, so, I mean, dude, he's talking about it right there. He's talking about that physical dependency. He's talking about the addiction right there and how over time you become so reliant on the opiates just to feel normal. He starts talking about the cold sweats and the itching. You know, people ask me a lot, like, what withdrawal symptoms feel like for opiates. It feels like the worst possible feeling ever, all over, all at once, right? So your bones ache, your muscles are contracting. You can feel it, you know, the extended use of opiates will make it so your pain receptors aren't working as well. So when you're trying to get off of it, next thing you know, like you could feel the hair on your legs, and you can feel your skin crawling, and the anxiety and depression and the hopelessness. And so like unfortunate reality is a lot of people will continue utilizing or using the substances just to not feel that god-awful feeling of opiate withdrawal. He's talking about that here. Unable to sleep. Oh yeah, like Sleep's out the window, eating food's out the window, doing anything is out the window. You physically are nauseous all the time, but you can't eat. You're anxious, but you can't stop moving. It's terrible.
Just a little bit too much of that cough syrup. His eyelids closed shut, sat back in the chair clutching that cup. Girlfriend came in a couple hours later, said his name shook him, but he never got up. He never got up. Never got up. We live on the cusp of death, thinking that it won't be us. It won't be us. It won't be us. It won't be us. Nah, it won't be us. Oh, girl.
Wow. I forget how hard hitting this song is, and I'm remembering why this song was so impactful to me personally. He's talking about, he was sitting back, clutching this cup of lean. And he rested his eyes. His girlfriend came home and tried to wake him up, but his eyes never opened again. And he's describing an overdose, and that's something that personally I've experienced. I've overdosed several times. Fortunately, I am alive today, but I've lost several people in my life due to overdose. And at the time that this came out and that I was getting sober, I mean, I was just coming off of losing one of my best friends, where we found him dead, and then, I remember also, like, a good friend of mine's mom overdosed, and we found her. And it's the sad reality, when they talk about opiates or drugs in general, but specifically with opiates, it's such a dangerous game to play, because the consequence is death. And not to say that that's not with all drugs, but with the opiates, the threshold for overdose is so low, and when you're using things like heroin or lean, like you're not you don't know how much you're doing, and so it's easy to overdose. And I remember, even before I was strung out on heroin, we were using oxys. And the thing that we liked about Oxycontin, which was essentially like a pill form of heroin, was that they had the milligrams printed on them. So it was like 80 milligrams, and you knew, okay, this is 80 milligrams. Well, like, not everything is like that. And even with the Oxycontin, it's like you do just a little too much, and that could be it, that could be it. And then that's game over. And so many loved ones, so many of us had to walk into a room and see someone who's overdosed, and it's like that'll never leave you. And he's talking about that in the song. His girlfriend came home, like, that is with her forever. Powerful song.
This boat is sinking, there's no sea left for me. And how the sky gets heavy when you are underneath it.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Stormy
want
waters.
to sail away from here.
Out on a boat all alone.
And God
I love this chant.
came down.
That's beautiful. That is such a beautiful chorus. I'm struggling to remember what the original was. I know that this next clip right there in the black and white, that is from the actual original Otherside music video that Macklemore had put out. But I don't remember what the original chorus was. I just know that when Fences came on and did this remix, it was like, wow, it was just so much more powerful, because we're talking about something that's so heavy, life and death, struggles, addiction, mental health. Like, it's heavy, and that just pulls on the heartstrings.
He just wanted to act like them. He just wanted to rap like him. Us as rappers underestimate the power and the effects that we have on these kids. Blunt past, ash in the tin, pack being pushed, harassed by the feds. The fact of it is, most people that rap like this talking about some shit they haven't lived. Surprise.
Oh, that's a bar right there. That's a bar. You gotta give a homeboy his flowers, man. Like, despite what you might think, like, in this specific song, he's rapping in a way that's more like a conversation. So he's talking to you, and the way that his voice is almost like a desperate conversation. In that last bar, he's talking about, I just wanted to act like them. I just wanted to rap like him, you know? And he's talking about how a lot of people get involved in substance abuse. I mean, dude, like, that's so many people, so many of us, myself included. Like, I remember the first time I tried marijuana, it was like, oh, do you want to try this? And I was like, well, yeah, I want to be cool like everyone else. So yeah, of course I do. You know, and it's the same thing with opiates. It's the same thing with amphetamines. It's the same thing with cocaine. You see that a lot. Being at a party, somebody's like, you want to do a line of coke? And it's like, I don't know, but I don't want to not fit in, you know? And then the next line that he says is like, us as rappers have a responsibility. The truth is that a lot of these people that are talking, that are rapping about drugs, guns, violence, gangs, like, a lot of those rappers who are talking about that stuff are straight capping about some stuff they've never lived, they've never experienced. People talking about drug use that they've never done, talking about violence that they've never participated in, and it just continues to perpetuate this message out there that these things are somehow cool, you know. And it's, again, I'm not bagging on hip hop. I love hip hop. My heart is in hip hop. This goes across all genres of music, but we tend to idolize those who are doing drugs and partying and chasing women and involved in violence and the gang life. And it's like, we idolize those people and we put them up on a pedestal. And it's like, well, what message is that we're sending to children, to the youth? Like, saying that these things are not only okay, but they're cool if you do them, coming from people who'd never done that. You know, they just know that it sells records and it sells views. And so we're going to keep perpetuating the same message to our kids. And it's just like, I'm glad he touches on that, because that is a big part when we talk about addiction. It's a part that we don't talk about a lot or enough, is like how the media portrays addiction, you know? Like, there's not a lot out there. Since DARE stopped working at the school system, there's not a lot of information that kids get about substance abuse, mental health, or addiction, other than what they see on YouTube in fucking rap videos. And on YouTube and rap videos, it seems like the greatest thing ever. But then you get stuck, you know, trying one of these things, and next thing you know, you're strung out and you're homeless and you don't know what the fuck happened to your life. And it's like, damn, that actually isn't that fun. I'm not having a good time. And it's like, say what you want about Macklemore, man. That was a bar.
Like this, talking about some shit they haven't lived. Surprise, you know the drill. Trapped in a box, decline record sales. Follow the formula, violence, drugs, and sex sells. So we try to sound like someone else. This is not Californication. There's no way to glorify this pavement. Syrup, Percocet, hit an eighth a day will leave you broke, depressed, and emotionally vacant. Despite how Lil Wayne lives, it's not conducive to being creative. And I know, cause he's my favorite. And I know, cause I was off that same mix. Rationalize the shit that I try after I listen to Dedication. But he's an alien. I'd sip that shit, pass out, or play PlayStation. Months later.
Dude, that's a bar too. He's talking about his personal story right here. How, like, he started using because Lil Wayne, who's a rapper, who's one of his favorite rappers, was sipping lean and smoking weed on every song, and so he started to use it as well. And then he's like, well, what the hell, like my life goes to shit and Lil Wayne's life is fantastic seemingly, like what gives? And it's like, well, yeah, man, because that message that's being put out there isn't like reality, and it's not a full view of reality. He's talking about, well, Lil Wayne smokes and then he drops a freaking mixtape that sells millions of records. I smoke a little weed and then I'm stuck playing PlayStation and sleeping all day. It's like, well, yeah, man, like that's real. That's reality.
Ass out or play PlayStation. Months later, I'm in the same place. No music made, feeling like a failure. And trust me, it's not dope to be 25 and move back to your parents' basement. I seen my people's dreams die. I seen what they can be denied. And weed's not a drug that's denial. Groundhog Day life repeat each time. I seen Oxycontin take 3 lives. I grew up with them, we used to cheat dimes. I seen cocaine bring out the demons inside. Cheating in line, friendship cease, no peace in the mind. Stealing and take anything to fix the pieces inside. Broken, hopeless, headed nowhere. Only motivation for what the dealer's supplying.
Whoa, okay. Dude, a dude can rap, okay? A dude can rap, and he's spitting bars right here. Everything he's saying right here is straight facts. He talked about he's seen his friends die from Oxycontin. Their life has been taken from Oxycontin. Yeah, me too. He says he remembers growing up, they used to chief dimes. Yeah, like back in the day, like that was it, you know? But then it progresses over time, and next thing you know, like your whole life's a mess, you know? He says it's not dope to be 25 and move back to your parents' basement. Facts. Anyone that's ever been 25 or moved back to their parents' house or basement, like you understand how like discouraging and depressing and embarrassing and shameful that is, you know? But that's part of this cycle. Sometimes you get hooked on some drugs, you start running around, you're not able to hold a job, your mind's a mess, like you run out of options, you end up right back where you started, and that's facts. Dude spit.
Hopeless, headed nowhere. Only motivation for what the dealer's supplying. That rush, that drug, that dope. Those pills, that crumb, that roach. Thinking I will never do that, not that drug. Growing up, nobody ever does. Until you're stuck, looking in the mirror like I can't believe what I become. Swore I was gonna be someone, and growing up, everyone always.
Wow. He says, I swear I'd never do that drug. You know, never thought I would. And growing up, nobody ever thinks they would. And then he talks about how it happened. And now he said, I swore I was going to be someone. You know, growing up, everyone always does. Just the way that he was able to. That was a bar. That was a bar.
Like I can't believe what I become. Swore I was gonna be someone, and growing up everyone always does. We sell our dreams and our potential to escape through that buzz. Just keep me up, Hollywood, here we come.
Wow. Yeah, the way that he just ended that verse right there was powerful. Just just one thing after another, and then he ends it with, you know, we sell our dreams and our potential to escape through that buzz. And that's like a perfect description. You know, I remember my dad telling me growing up all the time, he said, Roman, you have so much potential. He said, if I had half the potential that you do, he would conquer the world. And I remember thinking, wow, that's crazy. And then I found myself like in prison cells and homeless encampments and being like, what the hell? I thought I had potential. Well, I did, and I still do. But you sell that potential. You sell those dreams for that next high, for that next hit. And after a while, it just becomes so normal. You just become in such a fog that it becomes normal. And then you're using drugs every day just to not feel dope sick. And then you feel like you're in this mile-long hole that you'll never be able to get out of. And, you know, he talks about selling your dreams and your potential. Yeah. So good. The water again. So that was The Other Side by Macklemore and Ryan Lewis featuring Fences. It's the remix. Anytime anyone asks me about a song about addiction and what that's like, I always say this. Now, there's a number of other great songs. Dude, I'm going to be hitting on all the songs in later reactions, but I wanted to start with this one. It's very clear. If you've ever struggled with substance abuse or mental health, like, you feel that. If you've ever done opiates and gotten strung out, like, you feel that. If you've ever slipped up and struggled at all with any substance abuse, you feel that song. And it perfectly talks about how someone can seemingly slip into addiction. Like, it's not that hard. Someone could go from like listening to rap with their friends, hop in a car, the cars are smoking weed. Hey, do you want to hit this weed? Yeah, I don't want to be uncool, so I'm going to hit that weed. Next thing you know, you hop in the car, they're passing around a styrofoam cup with that lean. You're going to take the lean too because you want to fit in, right? We want to feel part of, you know? And the next thing you know, 4, 5, 6 days of doing that in a row, bam, you're physically dependent. So now that 7th day, you don't have a choice. Now you're seeking out lean. And next thing you know, you've ruined your relationships. You've lost your job. You can't afford lean. Promethazine and codeine was not like the poor man's drug, right? So then you can start, oh, I can't afford this anymore. Well, what can you afford? Heroin, probably. It's the cheapest version of the opiates. And so next thing you know, you're doing heroin and you're smoking it or snorting it, but eventually that's not doing it enough. So you start shooting heroin. And now you're finding dirty needles and you're using dirty needles and you got kicked out of your apartment and you're getting arrested and you're living in the street. Like, it can so quickly spiral out of control for someone who was never even seeking that life to begin with. So when we talk about those who are struggling with addiction or substance abuse, like, a lot of people think it's just bad people. It's just people making bad choices. And it's just like they want to use drugs more than they want anything else. It's like, sure, there might be some cases like that, but the vast majority of people who are using drugs, who are strung out and who can't break that cycle, they don't want to live that cycle. They never wanted to live that way of life, right? I'm sure they all had dreams and they all had potential. I know I fucking did. I didn't want to go to prison. I didn't want to be homeless. I didn't want to ruin every single relationship I had ever had. I didn't want to get strung out. I don't want to shoot up drugs. I used to say I would never do that. Like Macklemore said in that song, growing up, everyone never does. I said I would never do that. Next thing you know, bam, I'm stuck in the cycle. I don't know how to get out of it. I'm feeling alone. I'm feeling like I'm floating out on a lifeboat in the middle of this vast ocean by myself. And I don't know what to do. And I'm drowning and I'm suffocating. And that's addiction. And this song is a great representation of that. Macklemore has another song called Starting Over that talks about recovery. You know, this song was very much about addiction. He's got a couple other songs about recovery. Starting Over being one of my favorites, probably something I'll react to in the future. But if you've liked this content and you stuck around, please give me a thumbs up, give me a like, maybe hit us with a comment, and definitely subscribe. It'll help the channel, it'll help us with what we're trying to do, reach the masses, provide a little bit of hope for those that need it, those who are sick and struggling, those that don't have answers to the questions that they might have. Your support means the world. Again, appreciate you. My name is Roman, Ava Health, Reaction, Macklemore, Ryan Lewis, Otherside. Take care.
Hello, Ava Health.